Hi everyone, I hope you're doing well. It's Catherine here from Tullamore Live, and today we're in the beautiful Lake Louise, Alberta to meet Kyla McDowell. Kyla is a geologist that currently works for Parks Canada as a visitor services team lead, as well as has worked for the Burgess Shale Geoscience Foundation, leading a lot of different interpretive hikes. So Kyla has a lot of information to share about the landscape in Alberta, as well as some hikes that you can do while you're here. Kyla also, cool enough, is a 200-hour yoga instructor, so she has a lot of neat information to offer with health and wellness as well. So I hope you enjoy this interview, and I'm really excited to share it with you. Do you sort of have a set list when you're going out on a hike that you always take with you, or you think people should have with them?
Absolutely. I tend to make a lot of lists. I love lists. So I have different trips with different lists, and it ultimately depends on how long you're going for, and what the intensity is, how remote is the hike you're going on, and that will affect everything that I pack. But there's a few things that I always take with me when I'm going out in the wilderness, and the number one thing to consider is like safety, of course. So number one, have you told anyone where you're going? If you're going somewhere where you're not gonna be reachable by phone, leaving a trip plan with someone and giving them a time for when you're going to be back, so important, and it has saved people's lives. Secondly is having some sort of emergency device with you. Now, if you're going somewhere in cell service, a phone is fine, but something like an InReach or a Spot device, it's a satellite phone that you can use. So if I was going, way back in the woods here, then I'd want to take something like that just in case of an emergency. And it might not be for me, it might be responding to some other group that I come across that needs help. So those are like absolutely number one. Let's take those things. Water, of course, more water than you need. Snacks, really good hiking boots, and a first aid kit. Always pack a first aid kit, and it might be as simple as some blister band-aids. That's the thing I use the most. Or some good tape to tape your heels if you're prone to getting blisters. Any medications you might need. Of course, those are the regular things. And then I would say, investing in a good pack that's comfortable, and it's going to be appropriate for the length of time that you're going. Something to sit on is nice. So usually, I'll have a little foam pad that I can just, take out for when I'm having lunch if I'm on a rock face. And layers. So many layers. Bring toques, bring mitts, bring gloves, bring a vest, a down jacket. Bring more than you think you need. Bring enough so that if you get stuck in a torrential downpour, you're going to be comfortable on the walk out.
Do you have 3 that you would recommend, or that are your favorite, sort of, that you do?
In the past, I've led hikes to the Burgess Shale fossil sites. So there's 2 hikes there, and those are highly recommended. They're in our backyard. They're just over in Field, BC, and you need to hire a guide to go to these fossil sites, but you will be blown away. Just fossils everywhere. They're 500 million year old fossils, and it's a beautiful discovery right in our backyard. And then I would have to say another one that I would highly recommend, closer to Calgary. So in Kananaskis country, if you go up towards Highwood Pass on Highway 40, there's this hike called Ptarmigan Cirque. Ptarmigan Cirque is great, and it's a really good one for families as well. It's a shorter hike with lots of thrill value. It's fairly steep, and you go up into this beautiful landscape where you get these incredible 360 views, and there's a lot of really neat. So Kananaskis country has a lot of really neat geology as well, because that's right at the front ranges of the Rockies, where there's a lot of folding and faulting in the mountain landscape.
Yeah.
So you can picture that when these mountains were originally deposited, they were deposited flat. So when I say mountains, I mean the sediments were deposited flat, and then through tectonic forces, they've been crunched together and uplifted and created all these really neat designs in the rocks. And so that's something that you'll see somewhere like Ptarmigan Cirque. And there's fossils. It doesn't get better than that. Also recommend in Kananaskis country as well, there's in Peter Lougheed, there's Rawson Lake. That's a really good one for kids. It's always great, like if you're taking a kid out, you want to have some good thrill factor for them. You don't want to drag them out on a really long approach in the woods that's kind of boring maybe. You want to get somewhere that's like, whoa, this is an incredible view. Or at Rawson Lake, it's an incredible lake just surrounded by these like jutting peaks. So I would recommend that one as well. And it's a nice gentle climb. So a good few hours up to the lake.
For people looking for something more difficult or more advanced, is there one you'd recommend for them?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many options. You know, because we're in Lake Louise, I'll definitely say the most difficult hike I've done around here is Mount Temple. I mean, it's not quite a hike, it's a scramble. So scramble is basically classified is if at some point during the hike you have to kind of, you know, get down and you're kind of climbing on your hands and knees. You don't need a rope, but you're on the mountainside on the scree slopes. So Mount Temple is extreme. It is a full day. I remember, you know, I did it quite a while ago, and I think I stayed in the parking lot overnight, woke up at like 6 a.m. to start up the mountain. It's a full day, like 12 hours.
Yeah.
You're going, I think it's like 1,700 meters of elevation gain, and you get up to about 3,500 meters above sea level. So it's one of the highest peaks in the Rockies around here. And I think Lake Louise itself is at 1,600 meters above sea level, so just to give you some reference there. But yeah, that hike is, and it's phenomenal. If you're not going for something quite as extreme, but still looking for that magnificent view and a full day of intensity, I would say, you know, Sentinel Pass right nearby is also another great one. It's, you know, you take the same route getting up to Mount Temple, so you start at Moraine Lake and then just travel up the pass, and it's probably about, I think it's probably about a 5-hour round trip hike, and you're still getting up in that Valley of the 10 Peaks. Really incredible.
For those of us that want something not as intense and want less people on it, is there something you'd recommend that you think is less well known, or even would just have less people and would be nice?
Well, I think that, you know, these days a lot of people are getting out into the backcountry, which is so great to see. And sometimes it's just about your timing. So, you know, going for a hike on Saturday versus, you know, a midweek Wednesday hike might really affect how many people are out there. You know, coming somewhere like Lake Louise, you're going to expect a lot of people all the time, I would say. So looking on a map for, you know, what's something that's a little less known, maybe that, not as many people have heard of. It may not have the same thrill factor, but I would honestly recommend, like, find a place that is somewhere that you're going to go to again and again, and spend some time exploring on your own. Like, you know, not necessarily, like, I would definitely recommend using a guidebook, but not necessarily looking up, you know, top 10 hikes in Canada. Like, let's find something that's maybe off the beaten path, that's more choose your own adventure, and spend more time getting to know that spot, and go back, and each time you might find something a little bit different that really makes it exciting for you.
Do you have any tips for anything you think that they could do when they're out hiking in that would reduce their impact on the environment?
Yeah, so when you're out, in the mountains, in the wild, I think the best thing you can do is really consider like what your impact is, where you're going, what you're leaving behind, what you're taking. And there's that slogan out there, like leave no trace. That's something I think about quite often, and it's really like, you're not leaving anything more than footprints, you're not taking anything more than photographs. So that's something that is truly important, and also paying attention to how are you affecting the wildlife. So something like innocently feeding some birds or something that can have greater effects. So just being aware of like, oh, when you're out in nature, what impact are you having on that environment. And of course, like, there's other things that I like to practice, and I encourage other people to practice just on a regular basis, even when you're not out in nature. But things like, how much disposable consumption are you going through. So are you using a lot of like plastics and one-time use items, or can you find something that you can reuse? So when I go hiking, I try to use like reusable little sandwich bags or small containers, or beeswax wraps. Like, you can make them yourself. I've made them myself, and it's a great alternative from using plastic wrap. And then also consider like what kind of gear you're taking out when you're out exploring. So it's great to be like, it's really important to be prepared with like a warm jacket, whatever kind of a good backpack. Consider where you're buying that from. So is there a way to reuse something you already have, or find something on Kijiji or at a secondhand store that might be just perfect for you and someone doesn't need anymore, and before you're going out and buying something that's brand new, because all of that really does have an effect on the environment ultimately.
There's any sort of like hidden secrets of Alberta people should know about that don't, or any final thoughts you have that you just want to share with people?
Okay, well, I think that, because I've spent so much time in the last couple years on the Icefields Parkway, I would say like that to me is my new hidden gem. and of course it's not hidden. I think a lot of people have gone on the Icefields Parkway. They've gone up to see the Columbia Icefields, the Athabasca Glacier, gone up to Jasper, and that drive alone is incredible. But I would highly encourage people to spend more time in spots along the way. There's many lakes, there's many different hikes. Like, actually one hike I meant to mention earlier is Parker's Ridge. That hike is phenomenal. You start, it's just about at the boundary between the Banff and Jasper National Parks. And it's not a very difficult hike. It's just a gentle sloping hike, and you go up, and there's fossils everywhere, like little coral pieces all over the place, and you come over this little hump, and then all of a sudden the valley just opens up, and you can see the toe of the Saskatchewan Glacier, which is so cool because that's the start of the North Saskatchewan River. And so the North Saskatchewan River goes all the way from there, down through the valley along Highway 11, that David Thompson Highway, and comes out to Edmonton and keeps going. But that would be like one of my new favorite places, I would say, so that I love to explore. So the Icefields Parkway, Highway 11. I think, and just as like parting words, I would say, further to what I was saying earlier, like, we don't have to go so far to find some special places. And I think that's one thing during COVID that, we can't travel, and it's really upsetting. It's upsetting for me too, and I love to travel, but I've realized like, there is so much here, so much beauty, even within the city, even within Calgary. Like, I went to the Inglewood Bird Sanctuary for the first time this winter, and I was blown away. Saw a great
Mhm.
horned owl, like in the city, you know? So I think, you know, just take a look in your own backyard. That would be my advice for getting through the rest of this pandemic for sure.
Thank you so much
Oh,
for joining us for this.
well, thanks for having me, and I hope we can go on a hike together soon.
Yes, I look forward to it.
Awesome.